Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be exploring galleries in Tribeca, and there's actually two gallery spaces that I have never been to. It's pretty wild that so many galleries have moved over to Tribeca, and I'm still discovering new ones, still seeing some of my favorites open new spaces there, so it doesn't seem to be a trend that's stopping anytime soon. But you're in for a real treat today, especially if you're a fan of figurative painting. So let's jump right in. Our first stop of the day is going to be to James Cohen Gallery to see an exhibit of works by Jessie Mockren. And I have been looking forward to this exhibit for so long. I am such a fan of Jessie Mockren's work. If you're not familiar with who she is, she's an LA-based artist who creates paintings that are inspired by the details of European old master paintings. But she recontextualizes pieces of these paintings in a way that comments on current cultural narratives. So I will point out some examples of this throughout. And this is actually her first solo show with James Cohen Gallery since they announced her representation back in 2022. She's also represented by Night Gallery in LA, which is one of my favorites. I'll try to leave some videos from recent visits to there below. But the exhibit is titled The Venus Effect, and it's a term that explains the psychology of perception. And it comes from various paintings in art history of Venus gazing into a mirror. So some examples of this are Titian's Venus with a Mirror or Velázquez's Rokeby Venus. In each of these paintings, Venus is looking into a mirror, and we as the viewer see Venus reflected in that mirror. So we think that Venus is looking at herself. But that's not actually technically possible based on the angles. So what we're really seeing as the viewer and imagining that Venus is seeing is very different from reality. The gallery states that, quote, "For centuries, images of women painted by men have depicted women's beauty and nudity in the service of revealing an intimate feminine vanity, greed, or wantonness." You can see this in how the artists have depicted Venus admiring herself in the mirror, looking self-obsessed to the public. But as we just discussed, the real angle would show Venus, the artist, in the mirror. So in reality, she's really admiring him. So really, it's the male artist that is self-absorbed because he is painting this goddess to look at him adoringly. So through her works in the show, Mockren reimagines all of these concepts through a contemporary feminist lens where the mirror becomes the tool through which her sitters recognize themselves as both the object of desire and a powerful subject whose agency is antithetical to their original narratives. I also want to call attention to how beautifully Mockren has captured the transparency of these sleeves. Our next stop is going to be to a gallery that I've actually never been to before. It's called Margot Sill, and this is an exhibit of works by France-Lise and the late Rita McGurn. And as you probably could have inferred by the names, they are mother and daughter, and the exhibit is titled Matching Mother-Daughter Tattoos. And if you're not familiar with either artist, the paintings are by France-Lise and the sculptures are by Rita. The title of the show takes inspiration from a story that France-Lise told, which I will read for you now. She said, quote, "The story was me returning home from a trip to New York and showing her my new black star tattoo I got to match hers. She was busy cooking, as per, and turned to me with an eyebrow raised. In her kind, cutting sarcasm, she said, 'Matching mother-daughter tattoos? Charming.' She was half smiling and deeply unimpressed." This story really represents the whole theme of the show, which is all about the inherent tension between wanting to belong but to have autonomy as an individual. And this can be especially true in mother-daughter dynamics. Extending the paintings beyond to the walls is definitely a signature of France-Lise's. She does these at art fairs, a lot of her exhibits, so I'm really happy to see it here because it really engulfs you into her world. Our next stop of the day is going to be just around the corner to Nicel Bohn Gallery to see Jordan Casey's fourth solo exhibition with the gallery. And the show is titled Orbit, and it's made up of 8 large-scale oil and canvas paintings that focus on capturing various emotional aspects of parenthood through scale, color, and texture. In all of the works, Casey plays with the scale of her subjects in order to convey the perspective the work is representing. So, for example, in this work, which is Small Child's View of a Lake, the view of the lake is seen through a child's eyes and therefore scale. So their parents' legs appear like these giant trees, sort of framing the view of the lake. Casey utilizes these really bold colors of red and blue and green to convey the boldness of emotions, specifically boundless joy and comfort that a child feels. Our next stop of the day is a gallery that actually used to be in the East Village, and they've now moved over to Tribeca. And this is the first time that I will be seeing their new space. This is an exhibit of works by Alex Dodge, and I discovered Dodge's work for the first time at the Independent Art Fair a few years ago, although he's been practicing for decades, and he has works in the collections of the Whitney, the MoMA, and the Met, just to name a few. I think the most obvious thing about them that really drew me in at first was his use of texture. But the more I really learned about his work, the bigger fan I became. And what I love about Dodge's work is how he explores the relationship between technology and the human experience. After getting his BFA from RISD, Dodge attended NYU in their interactive telecommunications program, which has sort of been dubbed the engineering school for artists. So throughout his practice, Dodge has incorporated technology into some aspect of his works, whether it being how he creates them or the subject matter that they're speaking on. So for this exhibit, the title is significant because it has dual meanings. The title of the show is Demon Haunted World, where demon is spelled Daemon, which is an older form of the word demon used in Greek mythology. So the Greeks' definition of demon was considered to be, quote, supernatural beings working in the background. But there's actually also a computer program named after the term because it, quote, runs as a background process rather than being under the direct control of an interactive user. So a lot of the works in this exhibit feature demons casting spells, and this is meant to represent artificial intelligence as this magical entity carrying out the processes outside of human influence. Because overall, Dodge is interested in, quote, how technologies mine, mimic, and threaten the idea of our own humanity, examining the potentials and failings of our own inventions. I do think we're at a really interesting time right now as a society, and AI is definitely making us take a pause and really question what it means to be human. Why are we alive? You know, if a technology exists that can so closely replicate what we produce as creators, then who are we and what is it that really makes us human? I personally think that it's our relationships with one another, our ability to connect and sort of emotionally respond to things. But I'd be interested to hear what you all think. Thank you to everyone that watched this video, and I will see you all in the next one.